Obviously, you can see I have a little assistant here. This is my daughter, Camilla. Through fortunate or unfortunate timing, she's joining us for the call. Hopefully, not too much of a distraction. I'll likely actually turn my camera off as we get into the presentation, but certainly wanted to make sure you guys could see me, see us as we're here to talk about Union today and all the wonderful benefits of the platform your high volume for your high volume merchants out there that maybe you haven't had the right tool for. To give you a little bit of background on me, I am the channel manager. So I work with and across all of our ISOs from coast to coast to make sure you guys have, the education about what we do and how we achieve what we do. I also work to make sure you have the materials you need, so access to those materials and then any new materials that we have coming down the pipeline. And I also act as the go-between here at Union between our partners and our sales engineers to make sure that we're able to route demos effectively across our sales engineer team. We don't have a huge sales team today, but obviously across 45 plus processing partners and their agents, we do have a lot of business going through the channel. And just to clarify, we are really doing almost 95% of our business over the channel. And so we've dedicated a lot of our resources through the channel and to the channel. And we're closing those deals at a 50% clip, which is to tell you that if you get me two, I will likely get you one merchant. And I might be able to get you the second too, because we have some really talented sales engineers that know the system inside and out. And we really looked with our partners to saddle up together, ride shotgun on all these deals that we do, and make sure that we're emphasizing all of the benefits that are available to our merchants, up to and including really growing those merchants to be more cash rich month to month, year to year through how the Union system works. So I'm going to move over to the presentation. I'll ask if you have any questions during the presentation, please save those till the end. If it's just burning and you must, feel free to chime in. I will not be able to see you guys. But yeah, please chime in if it's a must. Let me see here if I can go to the presentation. My little Windows blocking, of course. 1 second. All right. Okay, here we go. I assume you guys can see my screen. Wonderful. I think I saw a nod. Yes. Great. Excellent. So what you're looking at here is a page on our website that we have dedicated to the partner channel. And really, it's a wonderful place for everything Union at a glance. We had a meeting with the Pay Compass team last week. And, I didn't want to let up on the momentum we had in that meeting, which is why you see me and my daughter here today with you. She's being pretty agreeable, so I'm going to get out as much of this as we can. But really what you're looking at is when we talk about Union, we talk about high volume venues and how we can maximize the speed at which we can get liquid across a bar. Okay. So when you look at us and any parallels to our quote unquote competitors, we're not trying to be Toast. We're not trying to be everywhere in the hospitality sphere, right? You're never going to see us in a bagel shop or a diner. You're not going to see us in a coffee spot, right? You are going to see us in restaurants with a bar attached. Think 50% of their revenue monthly and yearly at that bar. And we want to help them grow that. You also see us at dive bars. You'll see us at an Irish pub or a Mexican food restaurant with a great bar that maybe does, anejo and mezcals along with, an awesome margarita special from week to week. And you'll also see us at nightclubs, music venues, so on and so forth. Wherever there are places where there are typically bottlenecks with today's modern POS systems. We built our product for the industry, and we engaged the industry in completing what you see before you. What you're looking at here is the user interface. This is the guest facing aspect of the system. And this would be our QR code slash NFC puck. So near field communication, you tap that bad boy and it takes you directly into the menu. Now, there's some wonderful things that happen in that exchange, and I'll save that for a little bit later. I'm sure a lot of you already are putting together that getting people into the system on the front end can lead to some really wonderful things when we talk about the payment that they're using, whether it be Apple or Google Pay, and how we can benefit the merchant with that information. As I was saying before, we were built for the busiest venues. We absolutely are purpose built for the industry that needs to move their highest margin product, which is beer, wine, and liquor. For that speed and efficiency piece, what you're looking at here, just to give you an idea of what the system looks like, is this is our standard 11-inch iPad. This is in military grade enclosure. For those of you that have worked in hospitality, specifically behind a bar, but really in any hospitality setting, you know that the devices that get used really can take a beating. We built this, not necessarily to be thrown across the room, but it is not uncommon for a bottle to fall off the top shelf and smash into the counter. And certainly we've seen that happen from time to time. But we feel really strong about the strength of our product. And obviously, I'm sure all of you on this call have used an iOS-based product in your time on this earth, because so many people have. And it's why we were built specifically over iOS, is because that familiarity, right? If you do not own an iPhone, you likely have used an iPad. And on the server side, we find that there's an instant familiarity with the way we have architected our software to live on the iOS platform. Here, it's a little hard to see if your contrast is low on your computer screen, but we do have the ability to swipe, chip, and dip here. And pretty standard. This would work well for any old bar that has an existing traditional setting where they take payment at the bar. We're cloud-based, so we have a wonderful offline mode. Truly, one of the things we're really happy about is when it happens, not if it happens, that there's an outage for whatever reason, right? Be it a internet provider or something on the Pfizer level. Our offline mode has been really a wonderful aspect that all of our merchants have benefited from at some point. So whether you're down in Florida where you have hurricanes, or in the middle of the country where there's tornadoes, or in California where they have those earthquakes, we're usually able to maintain business as usual until we're able to get that Wi-Fi back up, which is a fantastic benefit. We're open architecture, right? So I'm sure a lot of people on this call, you prefer to do only dual pricing deals, right? Those are the most lucrative for you. We support that. We are an agnostic on the processor side. And so as I was pointing out earlier, with the numbers that we're doing through the channel, and really what I direct within our partner, with each of our partners, is that we are really able to utilize the best aspects of your processing along with our platform, which is awesome. The 24/7 customer support. This, I'll take a little time here. This isn't just something we put on the website. Truly unique to us in the sense that when we talk about our competitors, we talk about offshore, third party support, folks that may not even speak the actual language, let alone know much about hospitality. The people in our support team are W-2 employees based here in the U.S. And it's nothing against folks offshore. It's more against our competitors who have put our merchants, or those that would perhaps be better off working with union, in positions that hadn't been advantageous to figuring out whatever their issue is from day to day, night to night. It's not a matter of if things happen, right? Especially in hospitality, it's a matter of when. And it's typically not on a Tuesday right after lunch service. It's usually on your busiest night, Friday, Saturday, at 1 when people are, having a good time, that, our merchants need us. And whether it's New York or Honolulu, we have to have coverage across that whole spectrum of the merchants that currently are using Union and will use Union. And so we have to be open when they're open. When you give us a call or you hit us up on the chat, and this is baked into every single Union platform you see in a bar or a restaurant, bar, nightclub, that you'll be able to interact with a human being and they will know the system inside and out. And that's a huge difference when we talk about Clover or Toast or any of these others where their growth has forced them to outsource a lot of the support functions that we feel are 100% attached to the experience of our merchants. Sorry, guys. Hopefully, you're getting that. And then advanced reporting features. Our merchants, they need to be able to look at things like sales by item, sales by item by employee, hourly, daily, weekly, and we do everything from something granular like that to your classic Phoenix report and everything in between. And so it's likely if you have a question about what kind of reports we do, we're likely doing it, and if we're not, we're small enough, as my friends say here internally. We're not big enough to not care, and we're certainly small enough to give a shit. And we can add these things as we see a need for them. So that's kind of cool to be able to work with us in that kind of partnership. As I mentioned earlier, we are an iOS-based platform. This is strictly on the merchant side. We are ubiquitous when it comes to how the guest interacts with our platform. That QR code NFC, if it can scan a QR code or tap an NFC, you can get into our menu, right? You can attach a payment method there. But on the merchant side, iOS is truly what we've chosen to partner up with because of the ubiquity, right? Our handheld is the iPhone. We do have a 7.8-inch iPad mini. That is an option. I would say that from a merchant standpoint, our existing merchants, they're moving a bit away from this model, mainly because of the portability, right? But the other side of this, and what's an awesome feature that's coming online by the end of the quarter, is card to phone transaction, right? So that's a card tap to the actual device itself, which is going to completely change the game. That's right. She's very excited about that. Going to change the game for our merchants who have had to deal with, a lot of these proprietary hardware pieces, right? So think about these, Toast bricks that these guys have to carry around. That thing breaks, again, not a matter of if, but when, falls into a wash bucket or somehow flies off a counter and breaks, they have to wait to get that replacement. With us, a replacement can be quickly to you, whether that's, a retail shop or through Amazon. And we actually encourage folks to try to find the best deal they can, because for us, it's less about charging them for the hardware and more about how can we service them where they're at and in the quickest way possible. So in that scenario where one has broken or gone down and they need it immediately, they can get that same day or next day. We can have that up in about 10 minutes and verified, connected to their Union account, which is awesome. It's awesome for the merchants because that has not been a thing that they've been able to really do in the past. So we're really excited about our growing usability over the iOS platform and how it's making things easier for our merchants. Guest-led ordering. We call this GLO, G-L-O. If you work with us in the future, I should say when you work with us in the future, you will hear us refer to GLO a lot. It's truly the biggest feather in our cap from my perspective, primarily because of the opportunities it opens up for our merchants, but also where it starts with our guests. As you can see here, hopefully you can read it, but we drive about a 28% increase in sales. That also travels to tips, which is a wonderful thing. Post COVID, that thing that happened, it's been really hard for our hospitality friends to keep good people. In fact, a lot left. I was a little ahead of the curve in 2019, but we're still working in the service industry before everything fell apart. But what we've been able to do is really lean on the technology to not only fill the gap where there may be experience issues with the new set of people that have come over the last 4 years, but also really maximize, and I like to call it, inch wide, mile deep. How do we mine our existing patrons to build larger check sizes? And that's exactly how Union was built and the philosophy that we've been able to capture some of these numbers with. Uh, there's no app download. So when we talk about the way that a guest accesses the system, that QR code scan or the NFC tap is truly the quickest way to get into the menu. They have an opportunity to download the app if they like, and we're finding new ways to engage with our guests directly. But as it pertains to them getting into the system to place that order, it happens very quickly. As quickly, I would say within a second that they're typically able to get into that menu to look at what is available. Now, what's really interesting about that is, and we did a great case study in New York where we have a pretty good swath of representation, just under 300 or so venues, a lot on Manhattan, that we were able to reduce wait times by 80%, which is a massive number. To give you some context, that's about a little over 6 minute wait typically with a normal service model. And we were able to get that to under a minute, which is a wonderful experience for the guests walking into any of these establishments. Because instead of greeting someone and not knowing who they are, you're getting that information on the front end along with the payment that they've selected, right? And you're bringing them their drink. Associated with that is also the name. Hey, John, here's your Budweiser. Let me know if you're interested in learning about our specials, right? Instead of coming over there with maybe a water and asking them if they've had an opportunity to look at the menu, which in a lot of cases they probably haven't, right? So we're really meeting where the guest, meeting the guests where they're at, and by virtue of that, making a more efficient system for these operators. Classically, what we say is if they could seat and work 5 tables effectively, we're taking them to 8 or 9, which is a wonderful thing for these merchants that are chronically understaffed, right? We're leaning on the technology to really bridge the gap there. Guests can open and close their tab, tip at their convenience, but they can also leave whenever they want. We're really shrinking the time on the front and the back end, right? And classically, we've had to call this hospitality when there isn't much hospitable about sitting at a table waiting for a server to come ask you what you'd like to drink. On the back end, there's nothing great about waiting for a server to finally see that you're ready to go and taking care of you 10 minutes after the fact, right? So they can either do it themselves through guest-led ordering, or they can literally get up and walk. Because at the end of the night, we have some wonderful tools where we can batch, walked tabs, which have typically been a nightmare for our operators. Smithfield's in New York holds the record back in 2022, way back in 22, during the World Cup. They had just under 400 walked tabs in one day. This was for the final, right? And I saw a pair of eyes like get big after I said that. And I'm sure under any other circumstances, they would have freaked out having been met with that kind of scenario. They run most of their orders through guest-led ordering. And all of those walked tabs were through guest-led. The beauty of our system is at the end of the night, right? When you're closing everything down, we have a batch close on the back end for any walked tabs. You can apply broadly your 20% gratuity or whatever it is, and you can walk away. The other thing that happens that is absolutely unique to Union is that we have an auto recovery mode. So in the instance that someone came in, they bought all their drinks, or they ordered all their drinks and they had their verified payment method, but they didn't have enough to cover on their card, we go into an automatic recovery mode for the next 30 days and hit that card for the amount due to the merchant. Typically, this would have been a merchant function. I'm sure a lot of you have gotten phone calls over the years for people looking to recover funds and all the work that goes into reaching out to Visa or MasterCard or Amex, right? We take that on and it's an automatic function, and there's nothing that they have to do beyond submit their closing report. And anything that doesn't clear, we automatically go into that. To give you some context, it is 80% effective. Of that Smithfield's record, so this 395, somewhere between 390 and 400, they had 6 that did not clear, that went to this auto recovery mode. They got 4 of those 6. And that's a pretty wonderful thing to be met with on the operator side, because this would take up a lot of their time typically. And then you just have to start asking yourself as the operator, is the juice worth the squeeze? I suppose it would depend on the amount, but that leads me to the third aspect of this, where we've just started implementing incremental auth. And this is totally up to the merchant, but we can set incremental auth check-ins to that specific account to make sure the money is in there at whatever amount the merchant deems necessary based on their operation. So that's going to differ, right, from a nightclub to a restaurant bar, but it's a really useful tool that we provide our merchants to be able to run their businesses more effectively. Now, the crown jewel of this giant feather is our union-funded rewards. Now, this is a big one, guys. When I talk about union venues earning our partners more money, it's not just based around this 28%. Our union-funded rewards are a union-unique benefit to the merchants that use guest-led ordering. I'm going to paint you a picture, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to share. Forgive me, I did not have this pulled up initially, but I would like to share this QR code with the team, so that if you have your phone handy, which I'm sure all of you do, or you ought to, go ahead and give that a scan while I walk you through this. You're a guest. You've never been to Smithfields. We'll use that since we've been talking about them out in New York. But you walk in and you're greeted with the QR code here through our union VOS system. And in scanning that code, what it's going to do, it's going to bring you into the menu for Smithfields, but not before telling you all of the deals that are present at this particular venue. And what's really cool about this is that we have a dedicated brand team that allows us to pull in brand deals to offer our guests. All right. And what we see in that, when we are able to offer a brand deal and a guest interacts with it, what we see is that 28% number that follows all guest-led ordering across our portfolio. What we see with brand deals is that balloons to north of 70%. Those tabs, 70, those tabs where we have brand deals present and the guest is interacting with them, there's 70% more revenue per tabs where they're taking advantage of these brand deals. Now, if you're a, Budweiser fan and you happen to walk into Smithfields and they're running a special on Michelob and you're getting $3 off of that beer, and let's just go a little bigger here because that's not a realistic number. Let's say you got a $10 beer and you're getting $5 off that that Michelob versus the Budweiser you would normally get. You might be drinking Michelob that night because you're going to be saving that money. Now, I'm sure you're asking yourselves, well, who the hell is fulfilling this other half? In this scenario where there's $5 off a $10 drink, who is doing that? The short answer is Union. Union is covering that other part. You're essentially opening up a tab with Union every single time a guest uses the brand deal within their guest-led experience. And the massive aspect about this and what truly is behind that 70% number, it's actually 74%. I just say 70. It's going to continue to grow, but it's 74%. But what really drives that is that when the guest interacts with that brand deal, they are buying another round and another round because they feel great about the fact that they have walked in here, have never been here before, and they're able to save money on a tab. A certain amount they had in their mind that they were going to spend that night. The beauty for the merchant is, and what they've classically had to do is, I'll explain the first part, is that we are getting them their money, so the quote unquote discount to the guest, the next day. And so that transaction looks the same to a merchant, and they're not out any money. Classically, they would be out any specials that they ran. And that is something that we're looking to get the entire industry away from, because it's really untenable when you talk about the amount of time it takes for these operators to run their business. And then you think about any of the happy hour deals that they've had, and it really looks like a mountain of work for them. We're not saying that they shouldn't do that anymore. We don't get in between them and their brand relationships or their distributor relationships. We can run this layered on top to help drive the revenue I mentioned earlier, that 70% number. Now, something I want you to visualize here is how that affects you as the processor. You guys are agents. You've probably seen plenty of places out there where you're like, man, I'd love to get that one. But if I place a Clover in there, I'm going to hear from this merchant every single day, or a lot more than I want. And they're probably going to call you at 1 a.m., right? And no one wants that call, but you're going to take it because, of course, you stand to make money off of those residuals and the eventual buyout of that merchant, right? By virtue of how the system works and how we partner with you on the support side, we can minimize those calls, and we were built for this scenario. And so at the end of the day, these places where you haven't been able to find the key, or maybe you've put a less than desirable system in place, hopefully you're seeing that Union can really fill the gap for, these nightclubs or these bars, these restaurant bars that you've been trying to get in, or that you're hanging on for dear life and trying not to lose. We are here, and so is Cami, to really help you guys maximize these opportunities and maintain them. All right, and these last parts here, guys, and I'm looking forward to all the questions. But these last parts here I'll go through quickly because I think we're reaching our limit. But our integrations, kind of far and wide. We have a wonderful we have a wonderful integrations team. Our development team has gone a really long way to making sure that our integrations are robust and meeting our merchants where they are. We continue to add to this list, and where we are able to or need to, and the opportunity is big enough, we want to continue to work with our partners and their merchants to grow this list. This is on the website, and I will be following up to the team with a boilerplate email and make sure you have access to all this information, because whether they're using specific integrations you see here today, or they need one built out, our development team is nimble enough to have that conversation with other software providers. And forgive me, just to go through the list here quickly: Razzie, Craftable, Shogo, R365, but these are your inventory and accounting softwares. Factor 4 is our gift card partner. They also dabble in some loyalty. We're working on our own loyalty platform within the guest experience, but currently our option right now is working with Factor 4. eTab is everything online ordering. So you can think, the classic www dot, and I'm going to place an order. We can pipe that directly through the internet into the POS system. Very convenient. Tip House, they do tips every which way and sideways. Really awesome, innovative company out of Seattle. I like to call them the Venmo of tip management. Long story short, the servers who typically have to wait for some aspects of their tips to be doled out over a 2-week period, right? We're talking these credit card tips. They can actually, based off the reports coming from their merchant, get their tips the next day for a fee, of course, but it allows them to get their money sooner, which is a fantastic thing for our merchants, especially for those who need the money now. And then It's a Checkmate. is our third-party order aggregate. So you can think DoorDash, Uber Eats, so on and so forth. They work with all of them, and it pipes directly into the system on the back end to the kitchen seamlessly. What we don't have listed here and we need to update, we are into the second 2.0 version of our kitchen display system. That's KDS, which is absolutely necessary when we're talking about how are we competing with Toast. Even though we don't see Toast as a direct competitor, they are certainly in a lot of places we ought to be. And KDS is a huge part of how we're making a difference for those who do also have a food heavy presence. We have a wonderful YouTube channel that has a large suite of videos that show the system working, the look and feel of it. I encourage you all to go there. Again, I will be sharing a lot of these links so that you can see what we got available for you. And then the last bit here, our union marketing material. We have an ISO merchant facing folder that I've put together for our partners. We are updating constantly month to month with new features and marketing slicks that we push out through our sales engineers, but are also available to our ISOs to be able to provide them pieces, not only talking points, but leave behinds that may be able to get you the demo. I am now at the end of the presentation and would be happy to take some questions.
Perfect. Thank you for the insightful information. Let's move over to the chat for questions our agents have for you, Nick. One
Awesome.
came in that says, I have 4 chain Mexican restaurants that use Heartland's HR POS, which uses iOS. Is this a restaurant that could use their existing equipment to cut down his out-of-pocket?
It's possible. I would say that as iOS has sunset the 10.2 and the 12.2 iPad Pro respectively, there is going to become something of a generational gap between the old versions and the new versions, which are the 11 and the 13 iPad and iPad Pro. So we like to say last generation is typically one we can work with. So that would be the 10.2 and the 12.2. However, there is always, when we're repurposing existing equipment, there's always the case of MDM, which is mobile device management, which every platform will have embedded into that hardware. And typically when we're talking about flipping a system, we do have to ask permission for them to release that, which can be challenging dependent on the provider. So I would say that it adds a bit of a complication there, but it's certainly not I should say outside of the realm of possibility that we would be able to repurpose that, but it would be on a case-by-case basis.
Perfect, thank you.
And sorry for the long-winded response. I just wanted to make sure I'm giving you guys as much context as possible.
No problem. The next question that came in is financing options for hardware.
Yeah, so we do have a lease option through CEH Leasing. We are working on some other internal avenues there. You know, as we partner, part of not doing the processing part is truly where we can, relying on the partnership to have some aspect of responsibility for that when possible. But we are flexible to the needs depending on whether or not they're doing cash discount or dual pricing. Obviously in an interchange scenario, there's very little margin for everyone. We make our money on the brand side, guys. So we absolutely want to use as many tools that are available to us to make the sale. And I would say as we get some opportunities in the form of leads, we can certainly speak to the details of how we can get things done as we need to.
Another question came in. I also have a very busy bar/restaurant for $400K a month. They are using Toast right now and building a new, much bigger location. How do you compare to Toast?
So we have a toast. Yeah, I mean, I could spend another half hour talking about that. We have a toast comparable in the marketing directory folder that I'll be sharing with the group. And so I would say referencing that as it's been updated this summer would be a great place to start. I will tell you, toast is ripe right now, just given that they just started charging, what was it, 25 basis points to their existing portfolio. So I imagine if anyone was even remotely interested in other platforms up to this point, that they may have been recently pushed by that increase that I believe happened at the beginning of this month, so on September 1st. But yeah, I would reference you to the marketing directory as for any direct comparables, as we could probably again spend another half hour talking about them here.
Perfect. This one coming up, forgive me if I don't pronounce it correctly. The SaaS fees per month. Is that how you pronounce it?
Sure.
SaaS.
Yeah.
May
Clap,
help me.
clap, clap.
So I
So yeah, no worries. So yeah, the software, it's pretty black and white. When we talk about the terminals themselves, 79.99 a month. Uh, there is a $10 a month fee for the chip reader, right? Swipe, chip, and dip. And we pass that directly to the merchant. And then when we have POS on iPhone, we're talking $39.99 a month, or forgive me, $39 a month. So all that, by the way, because it's probably one of the first questions people ask when they talk about our system, is the price. All of that is in our marketing directory. Again, very easily spelt out in plain English. We do not care to make money on any sort of markups with our hardware. Our software fees are what they are. But the benefits of using our system, and hopefully I've demonstrated that in this call, are really wrapped around bringing brands to the guests when guest-led ordering is present.
perfect. Another question came in. Does Union POS do receipts like Toast does? Sorry for naming Toast.
That's okay. I mean, so when you say do receipts, you mean to show like the cash discount when applicable?
No, recipes. I was trying to recipes.
Recipes.
So you're talking about what gets printed to the kitchen. I have no insight into what their receipt looks like to a kitchen printer in the back of house, but I can certainly ask if if that is something that would be worthwhile to the group.
I think they're wanting to know too, like, and that's a question I have, and to expand on that, is Toast has a feature where it will tell the merchant basically every recipe like goes into a cheeseburger, like it's got the bun and the lettuce.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. So yeah, we have a long press function in our in the POS itself. So this we see this you know, front of house when people are working bar. They can also be used in back of house for any drink or entree and the ingredients needed for that. We absolutely have the ability to show that by simply holding your finger down on the specific item after it's been ordered. If that's what you're asking, yeah, we can absolutely break that out to the spec of the merchant.
Perfect. Next question is, so $79.99 per terminal plus 10 per for chip readers.
That's correct.
Okay. Another question came in. Has anyone had success on getting out of Toast contract?
I don't have much insight to that question. I would say we certainly have replaced Toast. It's hard to say at what stage of their contract they were at, right? Because I know they have the early termination fees. We're hoping to get people to see more. You know, it's Union's novel in the sense that it's as novel to our merchants as it is to our processing partners, right? We're going to make you more money because we're making merchants more money. People don't think of a POS system and think, how is this going to drive revenue for me? That's exactly the conversation that we want to push forward with our merchants and our partners in tandem, because it is truly a paradigm shift. A lot of the conversations you guys have is around how do we save money on the processing, and that's a great one. It's powerful, right? You see a lot of people willing to jump because they're paying exorbitant amounts of money month on month, year on year for credit card processing. You pair that with the ability to gain more revenue per guest led order through the way we run brands. They're winning in so many different ways, right? Like we can't mow their lawn for them, but we're going to make them more money. And on the other side, and something we didn't talk about, but is absolutely applicable, especially to the industry where we're pushing, beer, wine, and liquor, is that we are also affecting their depletion rates, which allows them to buy their product. They can negotiate a lower buying rate. And so that's something we have a little bit less data on, but is absolutely present with our relationship with Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits and why we partner with them closely.
Perfect. Another question is, can Union track liquor and alcohol?
We have third party APIs for that. It's not our wheelhouse to provide that in the system itself. But yeah, we have software partners that take care of that for us.
Okay. Another question came in from an agent, and he just wants clarification if we covered incremental authorizations.
We did cover that in this. I mean, it's active today, so that gets set by the merchant, and that is something that is active within the Union POS system today.
Okay. The question came in, does Union POS have handheld devices like Toast? If it does, can I see the picture, please?
They're not like Toast because they're iPhones. And with a card to phone function coming to iOS firmware this quarter, it is absolutely going to diminish the need for all of these peripherals, right? The caveat is, as we're waiting for that, we do have attachments to our iPhones, the Magenta card readers, as well as I believe it's the VP3300 through ID Tech when using TSYS. I'm not sure what y'all write to, but we do work on First Data and TSYS Sierra for card not present. And we're in the end phases of our integration to be able to fully roll out TSYS here very soon, which has been a huge request from a lot of partners. So we're getting there. But yeah, we're what we're trying to do is provide our processing partners with as many avenues to do business the way they want to.
Perfect.
And sorry, I know that wasn't the exact question, but as I was thinking about it, I realized we didn't cover it.
It's okay. So those are all the questions on the chat. If there's
No more
any
questions
you guys might have, the floor is yours. Please feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question.
Let me take this thing off while we're doing this.
Oh, one question came in. What iPhone would you suggest? Wait, what iPhone would you suggest Pro?
Yeah, so I think maybe they're referencing the iPhone Pro. So 14 and up is going to have the firmware upgrade that is coming down this month. So we can say that now that we're in September and the end of the quarter is the 30th. So yeah, if we want that kind of functionality, then 14 and up. If you simply want to be able to do orders tableside, we can do, like a scan to pay situation. It can run on 12 and up. Right now, as a company, we're only furnishing 14 and up, and 16 up, as we know, is coming down the pipe here. These are, the more expensive models for sure. But again, we do encourage people to source their own on the handheld side. Certainly source their own if they can find it at a better price. We do not care. I want to reiterate, we do not care about selling them hardware. we're trying to minimize hardware through guest led ordering. You know, if we could get away with never selling a handheld or, you know, just one terminal, we would. It's not feasible based on the operators, right? But that's exactly where we see the industry going, and that can tell you a little bit about our motivation here.
Great. Is there any further questions? No further questions?
Awesome. Hey guys, I want to thank everyone for their patience with having my daughter here. Hopefully she wasn't too disruptive. And yeah, we're really excited about the relationship with Pay Compass. I'm here as a resource. You guys will be getting some information. I think there's another question in here. No.
That one's for me.
Oh, how soon? I actually think Jackie may already have access to it, but I'm going to be following up with her
I do have an extra question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Albert.
So I know you was actually referring to support. You guys rely heavily on that, and that's really cool. But do you guys have like bilingual support, Spanish, English, or
We do.
what's the deal with that?
I'm sorry.
I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Which do we have?
No, like you have support in Spanish.
Correct.
You do. Okay. Sorry, I was just
Yes.
muting myself, just not to.
That's all right. I was wondering if I was missing other words. Yeah, yes, we do. We have the ability to provide support in Spanish. This has actually been a big thing for us this year, particularly because as we've expanded and we're just getting north of we're not huge guys. We're just getting north of 1,500 venues today.
Awesome. And you also mentioned that you have clients in Manhattan. I'm from New York. Where can you name me like a couple of restaurants that you guys
Ivory,
have?
Peacock, Plume. I would encourage anyone who has a mobile device to download our Union app, and you can actually search any geographical area you're in for a Union venue.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
But those would be ones in particular that, I mean, Smithfields is another great example out there. I believe Maggie Mays, relatively new. There's a big long list in New York. So yeah, if you download the app, you can get real specific.
Another question came in. What large
Yeah.
groups are you working with client for multi-location?
So what corporate, so like large groups? I don't have that information to give, unfortunately. You know, I can tell you that we do work within larger groups and have some corporate relationships where you'll see us in places where we don't have, you know, representation outside of those groups, right? And I can think I'm here in Denver. One of those would be Coyote Ugly, which if you're a local, you don't go to. I don't even know if you're out of town that you necessarily go to. But yeah, and then in Denver, you know, we're really there's a lot of opportunity here, but that's our only location here. So primarily, and if you would think of our core markets, I didn't really talk about this. We look at like New York, you know, Greater New England, Boston, Philadelphia area, and Pennsylvania, as well as Mid-Atlantic, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and surrounding areas. We're starting to grow. Texas is where we're from. So we have a really big representation there, being out of Austin, from Dallas on to Houston. And then, you know, California has been a huge emphasis for us since the beginning of the year. But yeah, we're in 42 states. But those are our main concentrations. And we do actually have like kind of a heat map in the marketing materials that I'll be sending you.
Great. Is there any further questions? We have 7 minutes. Ask away.
Yeah, as I was just saying before, I appreciate the flexibility. But yeah, we're really looking forward to working more closely with Pay Compass. And you know, I would say as one of our newer partners here this quarter. I think there's a ton of opportunity, and hopefully you guys are also seeing that. You know, we want to give you, again, it's great, Toolbox Tuesday. We want to give you another tool, or maybe the tool, to go after these types of venues. And we are closing the partner channel at a pretty good rate. And you know, just to give you some context, just this last month we had 185 leads from our partner channel. And we're doing a lot of good work with our partners.
Hey Nick, that app that you were mentioning too, I can find, it's Union. It says Own the Night. That's the one.
That's correct. Yeah, that's the one.
All right, if there isn't any further questions. Oh, they said to have a great day, Nick.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Rob.